There's a quiet conclusion that dependable people eventually reach. It isn't usually something they say out loud. It's more like an interpretation that slowly forms through experience. It sounds like this: if something matters to me, I should probably hold on to it. And that idea rarely comes from pressure. Most of the time, no one actually asks for that level of responsibility. It just seemed to work out that way. When you stayed close to something, things tended to go better. And over the years, that pattern begins to feel reliable. So caring about something gradually turns into just holding it. And that shift is very small at first. It feels a little like attention. And then it starts to feel like responsibility. And eventually it becomes something closer to this internal grip. It's not something that's visible to other people, but something you feel quietly inside your own mind. And after enough time passes, those two ideas start to blend together. Caring about something begins to feel the same as carrying it. If something truly matters to you, the assumption becomes that you should probably keep it close, keep an eye on it, stay mentally connected to how it all unfolds. The strange thing is that this makes a certain kind of sense. It fits with what many dependable people have experienced. When they stayed engaged, things often turned out well. And when they stepped away, things sometimes drifted. So their mind quietly decides that caring must require this internal holding. But after living that way for a long time and living with that feeling, something begins to feel heavier than it used to. Often the work itself hasn't grown dramatically heavier. What begins to feel heavier is the sense that the outcome now belongs to you. Responsibility quietly turns into something closer to ownership. And ownership is a very heavy place for a person to live. When ownership slips into the picture, the outcome of the entire system begins to feel like something you've got to sustain. The family system, work environment, relationships around you, and the people who depend on you all begin to feel connected to your internal grip. And not intentionally, just very gradually. The responsibilities themselves may still look the same from the outside, but internally, it begins to feel like the stability of everything rests on you and how well you manage it. And that's where we need to draw an important distinction. Responsibility and ownership are not the same thing. Caring about something and carrying it internally are not the same thing. They can feel connected, but they're actually two different experiences. Caring is about the value you place on something. It's the recognition that a person, a responsibility, or a situation genuinely matters to you. Carrying something internally is different. That happens when your mind begins holding the outcome as though it depends on you holding on to it. Those two experiences often fuse together in the lives of dependable people. They begin to assume that the depth of their care must be expressed by continuing to hold on to that situation mentally. If they let go of that internal connection, it almost feels like they're stepping away from something important. So the grip stays in place, not because anyone demanded it, but because it feels responsible. This is where the idea of stewardship introduces a different way of looking at those same responsibilities. Stewardship is a word that describes someone who manages something entrusted to them. A steward takes that responsibility seriously. They pay attention to what's been placed in their care and they show up faithfully where they're needed. But there's something quietly built into the idea of stewardship that changes how the weight of that responsibility is lived out. A steward does not own what they manage. Responsibility asks you to be faithful with what's been placed in your hands, while ownership asks you to hold the entire outcome together. Stewardship was never meant to include ownership. And when you think about stewardship that way, a really quiet shift starts to happen. A steward cares deeply about the things placed in their hands. They're attentive to what needs present. They remain faithful with the work that actually belongs to them, but they are not required to internally hold the entire outcome of the system around it. The system itself does not belong to them. And when ownership quietly slips into the picture, the internal weight grows much heavier than stewardship ever required. Many dependable people never consciously decided to take ownership of outcomes. It just formed over time, and caring and carrying slowly became the same thing in their mind. Stewardship invites a person to separate caring and carrying. You can care deeply about something without gripping the outcome. You can remain faithful with what's been placed in your hands without internally holding the entire future of it. At first, that distinction can feel very strange. It can almost feel like stepping away from something that matters. But something different begins to show up when you sit with the idea long enough. The care doesn't disappear. What changes is the sense that everything must stay inside your mental reach. This is where faith quietly begins to reshape the picture. Faith reminds us that the systems we care about aren't empty spaces waiting for us to hold them together. God is already present within them. He's not somewhere far away. He's right inside the same relationships and responsibilities where we feel the weight of things that matter. That realization shifts something about how stewardship feels internally. A steward still shows up. A steward still pays attention to what's actually been entrusted to them, and the work that belongs in their hands still matters. But the outcome of the entire system doesn't have to live inside their mind. God is already present within that system, and He is present in ways that extend far beyond what any one person could sustain through their attention alone. When that reality begins to settle in, something interesting starts to happen. The depth of your care remains exactly the same, but the amount you carry internally begins to soften. You can care deeply about people without holding the entire direction of their lives. You can care deeply about your work without mentally gripping every outcome connected to it. You can care deeply about the responsibilities entrusted to you while allowing the larger system to rest somewhere beyond you. That shift doesn't remove responsibility, it just returns responsibility to its proper size. The steward remains faithful with what has been given and what has been placed in their hands, and the rest belongs to God. And for many people, that realization doesn't arrive all at once. It just slowly unfolds as they begin noticing how much of what they were carrying was never actually assigned to them. The care was real and the responsibility in front of them was real, but the weight of sustaining everything around it had quietly grown far beyond stewardship. When a person finally loosens their internal grip on all the things they care about, something surprising often becomes visible. The systems they were trying to hold together were never resting on them alone. God had been present inside those spaces the entire time, and in many ways, He had already been carrying more of it than they ever realized.